Another challenge for caregivers is really promoting a healthy expression of um, sex and gender. So, helping the child develop a healthy understanding of who they are as a person. Very important to distinguish between two concepts. One is what we call innate, biological, something that the child is born with, and that is the sex difference between a male and a female. So these are all biologically determined. These are all determined by the XX and the XY, and based on those is the production of certain hormones and the activation of certain organs to be developed in correspondence to either male or female. The other part of the equation is the gender differences, and those have been misinterpreted, misunderstood, because they, unlike sex differences, are bound by our environment. It's not a nature, it's a nurture dilemma. It's the cultural aspect of the upbringing. What kind of roles and behaviors do we attach to males and females? So it's very important to help children develop a healthy understanding of their sex differences in comparison to their gender differences and what they're capable of doing and can be able to do. Now, each one of the theories that we talked about, the five major theories, reflected on how do children develop their understanding of gender roles. And we start out with the psychosexual or the psychoanalytic theory, in particular Freud and his psychosexual theory. And during the early childhood years, the child, according to Freud, is in the phallic stage. And during the phallic stage, Freud believed that the child is going to develop what he called an attraction to the opposite sex parent. So they are going to really begin to fantasize about how can they keep that parent to themselves. So those thought of keeping the opposite sex parent to themselves and kind of getting rid of the same sex parent are thoughts that unethical according to Freud. And in order for the child to overcome this unconscious desire to either eliminate the dad or eliminate the mom, they resort to what he called identification. So these two complexes that are developed are going to be resolved by identifying with or trying to become that parent that they're trying to replace. And that's why boys overcome their complex by looking like the dad, and girls overcoming their complex by looking like the mom. Behaviorism says no, actually, gender roles are really a result of conditioning, and we tend to condition boys and girls differently. We do it even from the time they are in the womb. Gender release parties are known on Facebook, and you can see how people choose certain cakes or certain decorations or certain clothing or bedroom furniture based on the gender of the child. So from day one, we are conditioning children to accept and act in a different way that is appropriate with their sex. So gender appropriate behavior is therefore rewarded when a girl exhibits a particular behavior that is acceptable by the environment or by the community or by the social context, then we reward them. But when they model or try to experiment with a different role, gender inappropriate behavior, let's say a boy playing with a doll, then we are punishing them or rejecting it. So we kind of appropriate the behavior based on our actions. And we tend to be a little bit more harsh on boys than we are on girls. A girl who wants to act like a tomboy is somewhat more acceptable than a boy who tries to act like a girl. That is definitely a negative and is rejected in our society. Cognitive theory said it's all about the brain and those maps that we are constructing. Gender schemas are like any other schema. We have a schema for operating a car or operating a a television, and we have a schema or a map for how gender works. And because children are in the stage of the pre operational development where they really are focused on appearance, and they're very static in their thoughts, they really look at a boy and see specific markers such as short hair, such as pants, and say that's what a boy should look like. And if a boy tries to grow their hair, then they do not fit the schema, fit the map, and that is why he is negated around early childhood stage and is thought of as, no, you're not a boy, you're a girl because you have long hair. Sociocultural theory said that our cultures, our social context is really how we learn those differences. We tend to socialize girls different than we socialize boys. Boys are allowed to be rough, girls are not. Girls are supposed to be sweet and polite and pretty, and how we socialize them to be around the other is how we teach them those roles. And finally, evolutionary theory says it's all about the two main concepts of reproduction and survival. And a boy has to look a certain way to be able to attract a girl, and a girl has to look a certain way to attract a boy. And it's all about that attraction that's going to help them continue that cycle of reproduction. So this is why they learn their roles.